I think in the next 5 years, we're going to see companies who move the elements of their entire supply chain or business model onto the blockchain. I think we're going to see public blockchains becoming scalable. We're going to see some of the projects that have been worked on currently by groups getting to a point where they're mature, and that companies are starting to shift the processes, the B2B processes or B2C processes onto these public ledgers, and that's going to become a viable option for companies.
So in 5 years, I see a lot of people using applications that run on blockchain, but not realizing it because the UI will hopefully, the user interface will hopefully be so integral to the solution and to what people are used to seeing with current apps that they won't be afraid to use it because it won't be this big, scary, clunky thing. And I hope that the internet will run on more of a virtual machine in which there aren't applications that are connected into centralized, vulnerable servers, and middleman attacks and things like that aren't as prevalent. That, I think, is a little bit more aspirational, but again, in the next 5 years, it's very possible.
It's hard to predict what's going to happen in the space. 5 years is still like not that long away, but considering how fast everything moves in the space, like a lot will change in 5 years. Like the landscape looks completely different a month out. Like in a month from now, it's going to look completely different from how it is now. So 5 years from now, like it's really hard to predict. But I would say I don't think blockchain would have taken over the world in 5 years. But I think that the things that blockchain's good for, it will definitely be used for. I think you'll see a lot more blockchain being used every day, and it'll probably be in a way that you don't even realize you're using it. It's not going to be everywhere, and it's definitely not going to be plastered around like, hey, blockchain this, blockchain that. Just like, you know, every tech startup doesn't go like, we're using the internet to do these things. But I think you'll definitely be using it a lot more in 5 years. You just might not necessarily know you're using it. And maybe it'll take a longer time than that for it to permeate to a lot of different things. But I think definitely in the privacy space, it's going to be used a lot in 5 years.
Predicting the future is very difficult to do in any particular way. What I will say is that whatever we try to predict now, we're likely to be wrong. But looking at history, looking at the adoption of particular technologies such as the movement of value between gold to cash, from cash to credit cards, from credit cards to online banking, that sort of evolution, you look back at that and you look at the time frames between each of those steps, and it's generally been getting shorter each time. So, you know, like between gold and cash took, don't quote me on this, but 100 years or so. And then even credit cards, the inception of credit cards took something like 60 years for it to be adopted. Whereas, you know, now it's quite normal to have a debit or a credit card. That's just the way it is. So I do see it still taking a little bit of time with blockchain technologies. You know, we're only 10 years in. It's still very early stage. But, you know, I think within the next maybe 10 or 15 years, it could be somewhat normalized, just like using Uber is and your grandmother on Facebook posting videos and photos. You know, that stuff's very normal now. No one questions the internet. No one wakes up in the morning, turns their computer on and says, oh, I wonder if my IP is routing correctly or if my modem's connecting to, you know, no one asks those questions. It's just ingrained. We've grown up with it. I think that time will potentially come with blockchain technology as well. We just need to work out how that's going to be and working out all those standards and the processes that will depict how it functions.
I guess I have a philosophical answer to this one. If you look at how much money has been moved into this industry, and it's not localized either, it's actually a global initiative. So people in Russia, people in America, people in China, people in Australia, and everywhere around the world have cryptocurrency and blockchain projects. I look back at time and I think, when has the human race all worked together in a specific industry, and then did that industry end up not existing? I think of things like the race to the moon or the internet was a global initiative and a global approach to making our lives better. And my prediction would be in 5, 10, 20 years, the rate of adoption will be continually increasing rather than decreasing.
There won't be mass adoption until it's easy to use. And right now, cryptocurrency is not easy to use. You can't just tap and wave your phone at it, but we're not far off. We're not far off that, people will trust crypto. You'll be able to load it on your phone. You'll be able to pay things all the time on it. And blockchain will exist just behind the scenes, and you'll have control of your data, and that really is what makes it attractive. And it'll be sitting behind the applications. You won't even have to notice it except to say, yes, I give permission for my data to go to this person, or no, I don't want it there anymore, and to pull it back and to control where your data's been. You can see who's seen it, which is pretty amazing, and you can't erase that.
I don't think that the end result of blockchain is what we see today. I think the end result is it being used as the back end for much larger systems that consumers won't get a lot of exposure to, but will get benefits from. That is, of course, unless we shift to a more decentralized web where we're relying on pub key authentication instead of passwords and emails to authenticate ourselves online. And if that's the case, then I think blockchain can become a good chunk of the backbone of the internet that we use, but I don't foresee that as being likely. It'd be great, but I don't think it's going to happen.